This one is nerve-wracking. Haters are going to hate on this one. Hi everyone, I'm Dawn. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for visiting with me. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. We do all kinds of things here, including true crime content. Hi, Alan. Alan. SFX makeup, regular makeup, DIYs, hauls, vlogs, chit-chat, food content, and most importantly, at least to me, Disney content. Although the Disney content is on a hiatus right now. If any of that is of interest to you, please join me. We'll have some fun here. So this video may make, excuse my cough, some of you upset with me. And I'm going to try and be as sensitive as I possibly can be with this topic and subject matter. But this is something that I think needs to be discussed among every group. And as I said in the previous video, I am no longer going to, a previous video, not the previous video, I am no longer going to be censoring myself for other people's comfort, because I try to make this person comfortable, this other person is uncomfortable, and it is just exhausting, and it's not, you're not getting me at 100% that way. So I'm not going to try to satisfy everybody. I'm just going to say what I want to say and let the chips fall where they may. And because there are people who make ignorant comments, I can't help this cough, and there is nothing I can do about it. I just have to let time pass. I was intubated, and I've had a lot of problems, and that's why I have this cough. And if you can't be sensitive to that, then you should just leave this video now, because I am going to be coughing. So there you have it. Not to be a bitch, that's just the way it is. So anyway, like I said, I'm just going to say what I want to say and let the chips fall where they may. So I do not have an issue with the trans community. I support the trans community. I am an ally. I have a family member who is a trans woman, and I spoke with her, she's right here, at length about the subject, and she herself is disgusted with the individual that we are going to be talking about today. She feels like this person is not only a danger to the trans community getting equal rights, but it's also a danger to the physical safety of members of the trans community, because they see this person and that's what they know of the trans community. And I feel like we need to talk about this. What I don't support is people using the trans community to take advantage of situations in order to make noise just for personal gain, to get attention on themselves, for no other reason than they are starved for attention and fame, and desperately want to hear their name in the media, whether it be social media or regular media. People who are using the trans community to benefit not only socially but fiscally. I'm talking, of course, about Lilly Tino. So Lilly Tino is using the trans community in a dangerous, dangerous way. Not to help that community, not at all, but to cause tremendous damage to trans acceptance. Lilly Tino is causing nothing but harm to the trans community. Nothing but harm. And again, not only harm that affects the trans community from being treated fairly and being accepted and getting equal rights, but also affects the physical safety of members of the trans community. I know I'm repeating myself, but it bears repeating. It is not cool what this person is doing. This person, they go to restaurants and manipulate the narrative until she is misgendered, and then she uses that to get free meals or free services or what have you. She did it at Disneyland. She rage baits and clickbaits. She doesn't give a damn about the trans community. All she cares about is getting attention on herself, and it is absolutely disgusting and repulsive. And I don't pretend to know how to speak for the trans community, but I have seen a lot online that excuse me, that leads me to believe the trans community doesn't exactly embrace her. You know, Lilly Tino is bad for the trans community. She doesn't help the trans movement at all. Recently, she went to my Disney World, where she filmed and photographed herself with other non-consenting individuals in the background inside public restrooms. And that is a problem. Filming in public bathrooms in Florida without consent of the other people who would be in view is generally illegal due to the expectation of privacy in those spaces. While out in public, you only have a reasonable expectation of privacy when it comes to, photography and filming. There are exceptions, though. One of them being public restrooms. Florida law protects individuals from being recorded in areas where they reasonably expect privacy, including bathrooms, dressing rooms, and changing rooms. I get that dressing rooms and changing rooms are the same thing, as well as hospital and medical settings. And here's why. I'm just going to read the law to you. Reasonable expectation of privacy. Bathrooms, by their nature, are private spaces where people expect privacy for their personal needs. Just because it's a public restroom does not make it a public area where that reasonable expectation of privacy applies. The reasonable expectation of privacy in a bathroom is heightened greatly. So Florida statutes, Florida law, specifically section 810.145, prohibits using imaging devices to secretly view, broadcast, or record someone without their consent. Even not secretly, you need their consent. In areas where they have a reasonable expectation of privacy, such as bathrooms. So two-party consent. Florida is a two-party consent state, meaning, are y'all fighting? Recordings made without consent from all parties involved are illegal. All parties must consent to filming, barring those areas where that reasonable expectation of privacy applies. For example, if you are, walking down a sidewalk and filming, you are not required to get consent from everyone else that is walking down that sidewalk that may come into view of the camera, passing by behind you or whatever. You're not required to get their consent. However, if you are putting people in your videos specifically to speak or to just appear, have them perform in some way, then yes, you are required to have their consent. But again, that law is heightened for places like bathrooms. Exceptions. While security cameras are permitted in public areas, they cannot be used in private spaces like bathrooms. So consequences. Secretly recording someone in a bathroom can be a third-degree felony offense, punishable by up to 5 years in prison and potential civil penalties, in which we're going to get to that. Individuals who are recorded without their consent may be able to file an invasion of privacy tort claim, potentially including punitive damages and legal fees. even if the person that appears in the video is obviously not the intent of the footage. And Lilly Tino has a reputation that includes, let's include this information here, sexual harassment and gaslighting. I'll refer to this comment on a video from TikTok. I was unable to verify the information, but I did look up a little bit of it, and it does seem like it's true. But take it for what it's worth. Here it is. Lilly Tino sexually harassed a female coworker. This was pre-transition, so I'm going to use he. She didn't want him, so he stalked and harassed her for months until she reported him to HR and he was terminated. Trans OF creator Callie Bean was nearly tricked into filming adult material with Lilly. Lilly and Callie planned to hang out and make TikToks. Lilly then begs Callie to do adult content for his OF. Callie refused, and Lilly began to gaslight her into thinking that she gave off the impression they would be making an OF. They would be making OF content. The filming at Disney World, kids are always present. Lilly talks about her privates and makes content that speaks on trans matters, dressed as public figures for toddlers. Lilly has a long list of SA allegations going back before transition. End comment. It was a little confusing. I tried to cut it up a little bit because it was a long comment. It was a really long, detailed comment. So I took some stuff out of it that seemed superfluous, that I didn't think was that relevant. But you can see here, this person is a problem. She's doing nothing but a disservice to the trans community. And the trans community, they do not embrace her. They don't. And now Tino is possibly facing legal issues from the people who were filmed in the bathroom, in the background, because she has this all up on her social media, and she's plastered it on all her socials, and people have seen themselves and they're pissed. According to multiple social media posts, the women who have seen themselves on this content that Tino published are considering their legal options. I think they should go after her, which includes pressing charges against Tino, but more likely would be a civil lawsuit for invasion of privacy and inflicting emotional distress. A civil lawsuit would appear to be the most likely outcome if the women choose to seek legal remedies. And I think they should. I think they should sue the shit out of this person. The statement is not anti-trans. I think that trans people can use the public restroom. I'm not against that. They're whatever restroom they're comfortable using. What they cannot do is film and photograph people in those spaces and then publish it on their social media. They can't do that. All the while acting entitled to do whatever the hell they want. In 2023, Florida passed the Facility Requirements Based on Sex Act, which mandates that individuals must use the restrooms, locker rooms, and changing facilities that correspond to their sex assigned at birth. This law applies to some private, public, and state licensed facilities. I'm not sure if that includes bathrooms in Disney World. Disney World is pretty inclusive, but I don't know. Disney World is in Florida, and this is, unfortunately, Ron DeSantis' Florida for now. As mentioned earlier, Florida Statute 810.145 makes it illegal to videotape and broadcast someone in a bathroom without that person's consent. In Florida, violating this statute is a felony. It is a felony, Lilly Tino, which could put Tino in prison for 5 years and or hit with a $5,000 fine. Lilly Tino has unfairly gotten people fired from their jobs, has stolen goods and services by crying transphobia, and has purposefully instigated misgendering so she can cry outrage. She does this. She manipulates these situations. She is a blight on the trans community that is trying so hard to be accepted, to just be respected and treated fairly and equally. Last year, Tino recorded herself in Disneyland using a corn dog and cake pops to describe male anatomy and relating them to her genital surgery, which she has not had yet, by the way. Social media was outraged that Tino would be discussing the male anatomy at Disneyland, where children could be walking by at any moment. She did this on purpose for the outrage. She knew it was coming. She is not a supportive member of the trans community. She does not care about the trans community. She is a shit starter and an attention seeker. And, you know, maybe you feel like I don't have a right speaking on a transgender issue. But I think that this is more than that. It's more than a transgender issue. This is, I wouldn't say so much a public safety issue as it is a public concern issue. I mean, I'll pee right next to a man. I don't care, trans or not. If I gotta go, I gotta go. And that's just the way it is. But not everybody is comfortable with that. I'm not offended by trans people using the facility that is comfortable for them to use. But the law is the law right now, whether fair or not. I know Florida as a whole is uncomfortable with that, and so that's why they have that law. But for me, it's just not an issue. But anyway, you may think, again, I don't have a right speaking on a trans issue. But like I said, I don't think it's just a trans issue. It's a public concern issue. And I think a lot of people, they use a public restroom and they have no idea who was born female or not. They have no idea. They may all think that they have a good idea, but they don't. The issue is Lilly Tino's attitude that the rules just should not apply to her because she's trans. But she's using trans as a scapegoat, and she thinks she's special, and the trans community as a whole don't feel that way. They just want to be treated fairly. Lilly Tino wants special treatment, extra special treatment, and she doesn't want special treatment for everyone in the trans community. She just wants it for herself. She just wants special treatment for Lilly Tino. And I believe the people who she photographed and videotaped and put on her social media, they need to file civil lawsuits against her. They need to fry her. I believe that Disney World needs to permanently ban her and possibly seek out what legal options they have. And I think that even Ron DeSantis should take a look at it. But the only thing is, Ron DeSantis is so incredibly full of hate for the trans community that he may take Lilly Tino and look at her as the poster child for the trans movement and use her as an excuse to further treat the trans community unfairly. So maybe he shouldn't look at it. If that makes sense to you, whatever. And that's kind of my point with how Lilly Tino is hurting the trans community. At least one way that she's hurting the trans community. Governors and politicians and lawmakers may look at her and they see a spectacle. They see someone who wants special treatment, wants things handed to her, wants laws changed just for her, and they think, oh, this is the trans community. This is how the trans community is. She speaks for the trans community, and they don't bother to educate themselves on what a problem that individual is. They're just using that individual, in this case, being Tino, to lean on their idea that trans people are, as a group, bad, when it is really just a few bad eggs who are just using the trans community to their benefit, for their own personal benefit. Again, I know that some of you, if you're watching this and you're a member of the trans community, or, you know, if you're an ally, you may think that I'm out of line talking on this matter. But to me, this goes beyond trans issues. This is an issue of entitlement. This is an issue of wanting special treatment, wanting to gain fame. And this is an issue of using a marginalized group for personal gain. And if anyone has any insight or knows anything else about Lilly Tino that they want to share in the comments, please go ahead and do so. Be mindful, be kind, and don't come at me. Don't come at me. Again, my channel, I post what I want. But anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to everyone later. Bye-bye.